The notification sounds never stopped. Ping, ding, buzz. A constant symphony of alerts that had become the soundtrack to Zoe Park's life for the past 3 years. But when Ellen asked what she did for fun, her answer revealed the devastating reality of modern digital addiction. "I live on social media. Real life is boring." Zoe Park, 13, sat in the interview chair with her phone clutched in her hand, fingers automatically swiping even during the conversation. Her eyes darted between Ellen and her screen, unable to fully disconnect even for the interview. What looked like typical teenage behavior was actually a severe case of digital addiction that had consumed her childhood and left her isolated from real-world experiences and relationships. The Ellen DeGeneres Show had invited Zoe during their Digital Generation Week, exploring how technology was shaping young people's lives. Zoe's story had seemed remarkable to producers. A 13-year-old with over 2 million followers across multiple platforms, who had built an impressive online presence. Her submission described her as a social media influencer, who was using technology to connect with people around the world and build a personal brand. What Ellen's producers didn't understand was that Zoe's online success had come at the cost of her real-world development. She spent 18 hours a day on various social media platforms, sleeping only 4 to 5 hours per night, and had essentially withdrawn from offline life. She had no real friends, struggled academically, and experienced severe anxiety when separated from her devices for even short periods. Zoe's addiction had begun innocently when she was 10 years old, posting dance videos that gained unexpected popularity. The dopamine rush of likes, comments, and followers had triggered a compulsive need for constant validation that escalated over 3 years. She now maintained accounts on 7 different platforms, posting content every few hours and responding to hundreds of comments daily. Her entire identity had become tied to her online persona, leaving her feeling invisible and worthless in real life. The impact on Zoe's family had been devastating. Her parents, Dr. Sarah Park and engineer David Park, had tried various interventions including therapy, screen time limits, and even temporarily removing her devices. But Zoe's withdrawal symptoms and emotional meltdowns had been so severe that they eventually gave up. They watched helplessly as their daughter disappeared into a virtual world that seemed to matter more to her than her actual family. "Zoe," Ellen began with curiosity, genuinely interested in understanding this generation's relationship with technology. "You have millions of followers online. Tell us about your social media presence." Zoe's face lit up for the first time, her phone momentarily forgotten. "I have 2.3 million followers on TikTok, 1.8 million on Instagram, and about 900,000 on YouTube. I post content every day across all platforms." Ellen felt impressed by the numbers, but concerned about the time commitment. "That sounds like a lot of work. How many hours a day do you spend on social media?" "About 18 hours, Zoe said casually, as if this was completely normal. "I wake up and immediately check my notifications. Then I spend the day creating content, responding to comments, and staying active on all my platforms." Ellen felt alarmed by the amount of time Zoe was describing. 18 hours? When do you sleep?" "I usually go to bed around 3 a.m. and wake up at 7 a.m. for school," Zoe explained. "But sometimes I wake up during the night to check if anything important happened online." Ellen realized Zoe was chronically sleep-deprived. "What about school? How do you focus on your studies?" "School is hard because it's so boring compared to social media," Zoe admitted. "I try to pay attention, but I'm always thinking about what I should post next or checking my phone under the desk." Ellen felt concerned about Zoe's academic development. "Do you have friends at school?" "Not really," Zoe said, her enthusiasm dimming. "The kids at school don't understand my online life. They think it's weird that I'm always on my phone." Ellen was beginning to understand Zoe's isolation. "What about friends outside of school? Do you hang out with people in person?" "Why would I need to?" Zoe asked, genuinely. "I have millions of people who follow me online. I get hundreds of messages every day from people who want to be my friend." Ellen realized Zoe didn't understand the difference between online followers and real friendships. Zoe, do you ever feel lonely? Zoe paused, her confidence faltering. Sometimes, but then I post something and get lots of likes and comments. And I feel better. Ellen felt the addiction pattern in Zoe's response. What happens when you don't get as many likes as you expected? I feel terrible, Zoe admitted. Like I'm not good enough or interesting enough, so I delete the post and try something else. Ellen understood that Zoe's self-worth was entirely dependent on online validation. How do your parents feel about how much time you spend online? They worry too much, Zoe said dismissively. They don't understand this is my career. I make money from sponsored posts and brand partnerships. Ellen felt the complexity of the situation. How much money do you make? A few $1,000s a month, Zoe said proudly. More than most adults make at regular jobs. Ellen realized the financial aspect, complicated attempts to limit Zoe's screen time. What do you do with that money? I save most of it and spend some on new equipment for making content, Zoe explained. Better cameras, ring lights, editing software. Ellen was beginning to see how the addiction had become self-reinforcing. Zoe, what would happen if social media didn't exist? Zoe looked genuinely panicked by the question. I don't know. I can't imagine my life without it. That would be like asking what I would do if air didn't exist. Ellen felt the depth of Zoe's dependence. Have you ever tried taking a break from social media? My parents made me try once, Zoe said, her voice growing agitated. I lasted 2 hours before I had a panic attack. I felt like I was missing everything important. Ellen realized Zoe was experiencing withdrawal symptoms. What did the panic attack feel like? Like I couldn't breathe, Zoe described. My heart was racing, and I kept thinking about all the comments I wasn't seeing and all the content I wasn't posting. I felt like I was disappearing. Ellen made a decision that felt necessary for Zoe's well-being. Zoe, I want to bring someone out who understands digital addiction and can help us understand what you're experiencing. Dr. Jennifer Liu, a psychologist who specialized in screen addiction and digital wellness in adolescents, emerged from backstage. She approached Zoe with the understanding demeanor of someone who had worked with many teens struggling with similar issues. Hello, Zoe, Dr. Liu said gently. I work with young people who are having trouble balancing their online and offline lives. Zoe looked skeptical. Are you going to tell me I need to quit social media? Not necessarily, Dr. Liu said carefully. But I am concerned about how much of your life is happening online and how little is happening in the real world. Ellen felt grateful for Dr. Liu's balanced approach. Dr. Liu, what is Zoe experiencing? Zoe appears to be suffering from severe internet addiction, specifically social media addiction, Dr. Liu explained. Her brain has become dependent on the constant stimulation and validation that online platforms provide. Zoe looked defensive. I'm not addicted, I just really enjoy social media. Addiction isn't about enjoyment, Dr. Liu explained gently. It's about feeling like you can't function without something, even when it's causing problems in your life. Ellen asked the question that could help Zoe understand. What problems is social media causing in Zoe's life? Sleep deprivation, social isolation, academic struggles, and anxiety when separated from devices. Dr. Liu listed. These are all signs that social media use has become problematic. Zoe was quiet for a moment, processing this information. But I have millions of followers. How is that social isolation? Followers aren't the same as friends, Dr. Liu explained. Real friendship involves face-to-face interaction, shared experiences, and mutual support that goes beyond likes and comments. Ellen felt this was a crucial distinction for Zoe to understand. Zoe, when was the last time you spent time with someone your age in person? Zoe thought hard about this question. I can't remember. Maybe 6 months ago at a family gathering? Ellen realized the extent of Zoe's real-world isolation. What about activities that don't involve screens? Hobbies, sports, reading. Those things seem pointless, Zoe said honestly. They don't give me any followers or engagement. Why would I waste time on things that don't help my online presence? Dr. Liu addressed this concerning mindset. Zoe, there are benefits to offline activities that you can't get from social media: physical health, genuine relationships, learning skills, and developing parts of your identity that aren't based on other people's approval. Ellen asked about Zoe's future. What do you want to be when you grow up? A bigger influencer, Zoe said immediately. Maybe get my own reality show or product line based on my social media following. Dr. Liu felt concerned about this limited vision. What if social media platforms change, or your followers lose interest? Do you have other skills or interests? Zoe looked genuinely frightened by this possibility. That won't happen, and if it did, I don't know what I would do. Ellen realized Zoe had put all her identity and future plans into something completely outside her control. Zoe, that sounds scary. Having your whole life depend on something so unpredictable. I try not to think about it, Zoe admitted. When I start worrying about that stuff, I just post more content to feel better. Dr. Liu recognized this as classic addictive behavior. Using social media to cope with anxiety about social media is a sign that the behavior has become compulsive. Ellen felt the vicious cycle Zoe was trapped in. What kind of help does Zoe need? Digital wellness therapy to help her develop a healthier relationship with technology, Dr. Liu explained, and activities that help her build identity and self-worth outside of online validation. Zoe looked resistant to change. But what about my followers? What about my income? We're not talking about eliminating social media, Dr. Liu assured her. We're talking about creating balance, so you can have both online success and real-world experiences. Ellen made an announcement that could help Zoe's recovery. Zoe, we want to connect you with digital wellness support and help you explore offline activities you might enjoy. Zoe looked uncertain. What kind of offline activities? What did you like to do before you started social media? Ellen asked. Zoe struggled to remember. I used to like dancing. That's actually how I started making videos. Dr. Liu seized on this connection. Dancing in person, with other people, could give you the joy of movement without the pressure of creating content. Ellen felt hopeful about this direction. Would you be willing to try some dance classes where phones aren't allowed? Zoe looked terrified, but slightly curious. What if I miss something important online while I'm dancing? What if you experience something important in real life while you're dancing? Ellen countered gently. Dr. Liu addressed Zoe's fear directly. Part of recovery is learning to tolerate the anxiety of not being constantly connected. It gets easier with practice. Ellen asked about family involvement. How can Zoe's parents help with this process? Family therapy to address the dynamics that enabled the addiction, Dr. Liu explained, and learning to set healthy boundaries around technology use. Zoe looked worried about losing her independence. My parents are going to take away my phone. Not necessarily, Dr. Liu said, but you may need to learn to use it differently, with time limits and designated phone-free periods. Ellen felt the challenge ahead for Zoe's family. What would healthy social media use look like for a 13-year-old? Maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, with regular breaks for meals, sleep, homework, and in-person social activities, Dr. Liu suggested. Zoe looked shocked by this suggestion. 2 hours? I post more content than that in 2 hours. Quality over quantity, Dr. Liu explained. Better to post occasionally with thoughtful content than constantly with compulsive posting. Ellen asked Zoe to consider a different perspective. What if you could be just as successful online, but also have real friends and hobbies? Is that possible? Zoe asked, sounding younger than her 13 years. Absolutely, Dr. Liu confirmed. Many successful content creators have balanced lives that include offline relationships and activities. Ellen made another offer that could support Zoe's transition. We also want to connect you with other young people who have learned to balance social media with real life. Zoe showed interest for the first time. Other kids like me, kids who understand the appeal of online validation but have also discovered the joy of offline experiences, Ellen explained. The episode aired 6 weeks later, after Zoe had begun digital wellness therapy and was slowly reducing her screen time. The response was massive, with thousands of families sharing their own struggles with children's technology addiction. Zoe worked with Dr. Lu twice a week, gradually learning to tolerate periods offline and develop interests beyond social media. She joined a dance studio where phones were prohibited during classes, initially experiencing severe anxiety but eventually finding joy in movement without documenting it. Her family participated in therapy sessions to understand how they had inadvertently enabled Zoe's addiction and learn strategies for supporting her recovery. They implemented family device-free times and helped Zoe explore interests she had abandoned when social media took over her life. 3 months later, Zoe returned to Ellen's show for a follow-up, looking noticeably different. She seemed more present, making eye contact more consistently, and keeping her phone in her pocket during the interview. "How are you doing, Zoe?" Ellen asked with genuine interest in her progress. "It's been really hard," Zoe said honestly. "But also kind of amazing. I forgot how much I loved dancing when no one was watching." "How much time are you spending on social media now?" "About 4 hours a day," Zoe said, which felt impossible at first, but now it feels like enough. Ellen felt moved by Zoe's progress. "What's been the biggest change for you?" "I made a real friend at dance class," Zoe said with a genuine smile. "Her name is Maya, and we hang out without filming anything or posting about it." Dr. Lu, who continued working with Zoe, joined the follow-up call. Zoe represents the possibility of recovery from digital addiction, but it requires ongoing support and the development of offline identity and relationships. Ellen asked about Zoe's perspective on her previous lifestyle. "Looking back, how do you feel about spending 18 hours a day online?" "It seems crazy now," Zoe admitted. "I was so afraid of missing out on stuff online that I was missing out on my actual life." Ellen kept a photo from that follow-up show. Zoe demonstrating a dance move she had learned in her offline classes, her phone nowhere in sight, her face showing genuine joy rather than the performed happiness of social media content. Because Zoe learned that real connections happen in person, not through screens, and that validation from within is more sustainable than validation from strangers online, that creativity and self-expression don't always need an audience, and that the fear of missing out online often means missing out on real life, and that recovery from digital addiction is possible with proper support, patience, and the courage to gradually reconnect with the offline world. Zoe's family learned that technology can be a tool rather than a master, and that setting boundaries around screen time isn't punishment but protection for developing minds. They discovered that their daughter's need for constant validation came from deeper insecurities that required attention, not just more followers and likes. Most importantly, Zoe learned that she could exist and have value without constant documentation and sharing, that friendship means more than follower counts, and that the most meaningful moments often happen when no one is watching or recording them.